A couple of years ago, people were really only using LinkedIn to drive just leads. You know, it was cheaper, there wasn't as much competition, it was just all about leads. But as the platform has developed, it's kind of turned into a platform that's way more valuable for brand awareness and kind of more measured tactics, as well as consideration, things like ABM and things like that as well. With brand awareness, we've been confined to looking at reach, looking at, CTR and engagement, which are kind of all a little bit outdated for measuring brand awareness in today's marketing world. And then for ABM, we have all this rich data on LinkedIn where we could be seeing companies, we could be understanding them a little bit better, and we haven't been able to use it really to its best advantage. So today I'm going to talk to you about 3 quite small but really impactful improvements that LinkedIn have made in the last couple of months. Hi, I'm Rob Muldoon from Tune Social LinkedIn Ads Agency, and welcome to this week's CXL feed. People are starting to use LinkedIn in a much different way than they used it before. The 2 big ones that I use all the time are brand awareness and ABM. And up until very, very recently, I've had a lot of frustration in how I measure them. So the first one I want to talk to you about today is dwell time. For brand awareness, anyone trying to do brand awareness campaigns, as I mentioned, CTR, engagement rate, all that type of thing really don't show the impact of brand awareness. Brand awareness is a much bigger thing, and it's extremely hard to measure. In some instances, it's not measurable at all. However, really what we want to see with brand awareness is not necessarily if people are clicking or engaging with the ad. Yes, they are important, but we also want to see if people are stopping the scroll and essentially spending a little bit more time on the ad to consume what it's about, or even ponder maybe what this brand is doing here. Up until recently, we didn't have that option. However, now we do have that option in a metric called dwell time. So here you can see the dwell time of specific campaigns, and then you can also drill down to see dwell time by specific creative. So this becomes a lot more impactful, especially when you have key audiences that are harder to reach and harder to engage with ads. What you really want to be doing is making sure that at least you're stopping the scroll with your ads and basically achieving a high dwell time. The averages I've been kind of seeing are generally anything that gets up to about 3 seconds dwell time is quite a standard benchmark for an ad, and anything above that tends to be quite good. So there's some optimization you can do using dwell time. So from a brand awareness point of view, that is definitely a metric you need to be considering. Are people stopping? Are people looking at these ads, as well as, liking, commenting, all that type of thing? The second metric I want to introduce you to is something called audience penetration. Now, before audience penetration was available in LinkedIn, I had to do this manually. So essentially, in all of my campaigns, you will see a number at the end of the campaign. The reason I had the number at the end of a campaign was because I basically had to calculate audience penetration manually. So essentially how I calculated it before was take the number, which is the audience size, so it's 6,500 here for this campaign. Then I would go to the delivery tab, and then I would go to reach, and then essentially what I would do would be to take the number, so the 6,500, and then calculate it based on the reach to get the audience penetration. So this would be my way of doing it. It was an old school way. Now, thankfully, LinkedIn, if you scroll to go to the delivery column and then go to audience penetration here at the end, they have finally done that for you. So if you keep a standard, or if you keep your audience size static in campaigns, you will then be able to see the audience penetration over time and over certain time periods within that target audience. So it's a really, really important metric for brand awareness, definitely, to understand reach. A lot of people care about reach, and it's a massive pillar in terms of performance of brand campaigns. The more people you reach, the more likely you are to succeed. But it's also an important metric to understand, for your targeting campaigns and everything like that, to understand, are you basically reaching as much as you possibly can into your target audience? If not, how can you optimize your campaigns to essentially do something a little bit different? Then the last one is something called the Companies tab. So essentially, the Companies tab is an improvement on a feature that LinkedIn already had, which was called the Company Engagement Report. Now, this is essentially a big improvement in people who are doing ABM campaigns, or if you just want to see more granular data on the companies that you're targeting. LinkedIn previously, again, it used to be just a platform where people didn't really care about specific companies if they weren't doing ABM. Whereas now things are getting a little bit harder. It's getting a little bit more expensive to do direct attribution campaigns. So people are using company reports to understand what companies are engaging and can they build campaigns around those companies. So the companies tab here in the plan section is an extremely useful way to be able to see what companies you're targeting, which ones are engaging, which ones you also have both an organic presence with and then also a paid presence with. And then you can also see the engagement level. Now, one other really strong benefit of this is that you can use filters on top of it. So you can actually use these filters. So you can do by multiple days, and then you can use lots of different filters to see very specific things within these company reports. And then the last thing you can do, which is really, really valuable, is you can export this. So you can either share it with your sales team, you can upload it to other systems or other reports that you pull, and it can be a really, really useful tool to show the value of LinkedIn ads to the rest of the business. You know, if there's deals just coming out of nowhere, but you can't attribute them to LinkedIn because you're doing last click or any type of attribution model that's very direct in its nature, then this is a really clever way to be able to show that to the rest of the business and maybe open their eyes to that there is potentially more ways to use LinkedIn than just to drive leads, that you can use it to engage the right companies and capture them. So my suggestion to you for these is essentially think about what campaigns you're doing. If you're running brand awareness campaigns, go and check out dwell time, see how your creatives are doing. If you're running ABM campaigns, go and look at the companies tab and see if you have it yet. If not, you may have to wait a little bit longer, but play around with it, export it, see if you can actually use it to get more detail in terms of how you are attributing. And then finally, look at your audience penetration. See if your audience penetration is high, which means it's good, you're reaching your audiences. If it's low, you may need to think about maybe niching down your audience or thinking about your bidding and budgeting strategy in a little bit more detail. So have a play around with the three of those, three really big improvements from LinkedIn. So I hope you're getting as much value out of them as I am. That's all for today. Hope to see you in the next one.